Scrimp Podcast.
Hey, welcome everyone to another Scrimpscast. We're recording this on Mayday, May the 1st. This is our second episode for today. We're giving you a special Mayday second episode with our friend and comrade, part of the podcast, Jared.
What up?
I'm Greg. We have Mike. He's always here as well.
Yes.
And Jared attended a Mayday event today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what happened there and what he thought about it. So, Jared, I'll open up the floor to you.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. I went out to Boston as a with other comrades in the IMT and to a Mayday event. If I sound exhausted, it's because I was marching around for hours today. So apologies. And it's a little later, but yeah, overall it was, relatively good. There was a few, I would say, kind of issues, but overall it was very positive. It was good to, see everyone out there for International Workers' Day. Good to see the red flags. We sang Solidarity Forever as we were marching. So yeah, there's a lot of good, fun, memorable moments. I got to talk to a lot of people about socialism. So that, what you can't ask for a better day than that. But yeah, there's a few issues. One mostly that there's kind of very kind of disorganized, I'd say, and a lot of times we were marching and it'd be like, oh no, it's this way, or we lost like the truck that was like leading us, and it was kind of like silly things like that. And it went way over on time. I think on the event page it said it was going to be till 4, and I'm going like 3 hours over. I mean, till 7, or even I think later, like 7:30. So yeah, there was like some groups that went there to speak that like it just went so over time that like they didn't even get a chance to speak. They just like ended up leaving. So yeah, there was that. And I stayed to the end, and but yeah, it was good. There was food at the end, and I think it was Boston Commons to Nubian Square. Yeah, it was a good Mayday. It's good to see all the red flags.
Were there red flags?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's
awesome.
I think there was like 4 or 5 red flags, and there's also I think anarcho-communism red and black flag, right? I think that's what that is. That one is.
Yeah. How many people do you think were there? Was it like dozens, or was it like 100?
So I think, yeah, I mean, it fluctuated. I think, and it was like at Boston Commons, there was like, an event, people were talking, and they had speakers, and then it turned into a march from Boston Commons to Nubian Square. I'd say,
as they always do.
Yeah, right. And then
turn into goddamn marches. No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, I think originally at Boston Common, when earlier on in the day, there was a lot more people. I'd say probably like 100, 150 people at any point in the in that area. And yeah, that was good. Got to talk to people. But yeah, it turned into a march, and that's kind of when things were went a little to the wayside.
Was there a big police presence at all?
Yeah, there's cops, and yeah, the march, it was just so long that, yeah, I mean, we passed I feel like we passed every building in Boston 2 times. That's early on. It was like we were walking around in circles because we were going to like these different locations, and then there would be a speaker there, and every location that we went to had like relevant people to speak on it. And there was a lot of like we would go to I think we went to like Whole Foods at one point. Like we walked over to a Whole Foods in Boston, and there was a ex Whole Foods employee who got fired for like speaking on poor COVID conditions, literally. And like he spoke there, and there was a lot of like being like, yeah, like fuck Whole Foods, shame on them. And and then we walked to like some other like essentially relevant like I forgot what it was like a FedEx packaging or something like that, and they're like, yeah, these guys are anti-union, oh shame on them, like fuck. Like, so that during that, it was like we were walking around in circles, and the entire time, like we were kind of just trying to like we were like looking like we were like, oh my god, this is way over time, and everyone's walking, it went way over. Essentially, we were looking at our phones, like joking, like, oh, we're still 50 minutes away from Nubian Square, which is like the location. It was a long walk, so it ended up being like, yeah, like a 2-hour march essentially. And for the first hour, we were walking around a circle, like, so. And yeah, a lot of the people that we were talking to, even the speaker for Whole Foods, I ended up having a discussion with him, and
the speaker was an ex Whole Foods employee. Just point that out. Yeah, not from Whole Foods. Sorry, Whole Foods. I know they're a sponsor.
Yeah, he's allegedly a Whole Foods employee, but yeah, I talked to him, and we had a good discussion. Got his contact information. He seemed interested in learning about socialism, and yeah, but I remember being like, yeah, I didn't know this was going to be a march, because and he was like, yeah, me neither.
So nobody knew it was going to be a march. It just I
think it's something, people did, but like there was definitely a lot of confusion, I could tell, and some people were like expressing in the crowd, like as we were marching, even expressing like, oh shit, like are we there yet? Like, damn, we're over time. And yeah, it was a little frustrating.
Would you say like maybe we need like an actual socialist party instead of a bunch of little fucking factions?
No, we don't.
I would say so. we definitely need like a mass. It's key. The key is a mass socialist, like workers' party. That's like, that's what we.
I would even make the tent larger. I wouldn't even call it a socialist. Well, I wouldn't shy away from calling it socialist, but I would just say we need a United States Labor Party. That represents the fucking actual what labor in the United States wants, right?
For sure.
Even non-socialists can be welcome, as long as they're willing to toe the goddamn line and obey. I'm just kidding. as long as we want to represent what's good for the workers, then that's good for me.
I'm smiling. I love it.
Sure. I got a couple, like, one, thanks for telling us about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, if we were just going to do a little bit of a free-form discussion, I got a couple weird thoughts that we can go off on, because I'm a real spooky, weird guy. So Whole Foods, don't they have like a reputation of being kind of like a leftist company? They're like trying to appeal to vegans and crap like that.
Oh yeah.
He even was talking about that in his speech. He was like, it's of course, like, it's very artificial, right? Like, and they're catering, they're not necessarily catering to the left. They're catering to like these essentially bourgeois liberal,
liberal fucking upper middle class dipshits.
Exactly. They try to like put like pose, that.
Yeah, but like in America, that's the left in America, right? So they'd be like,
no way.
Like
no,
you know what I'm saying though. They're not
right.
like
they're on the right, but like slightly on the right.
They're not stealing customers from like Walmart in Arkansas, right? You know what I'm saying?
I would even say the left doesn't start. I would say Bernie Sanders is like barely, like, I don't even consider him a leftist. Like, he's like in the middle.
Do you understand what I'm saying though? Is that like, this is in American mainstream, that is considered a leftist company, like to the mainstream Americans. But whenever you hear about Whole Foods, you hear about how they're like just stepping on their workers and fucking like exploiting the shit out of them to like an insane degree.
I would never consider it like a left. Like, it's kind of like Trader Joe's. I always consider them as like more like tilt your nose up, like, like I shop at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, like me, like I only shop at those places for like to treat myself.
Like,
Walmart,
let me say something.
Is more leftist because they actually sell to poor people.
Can I say something though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Trader Joe's is way more affordable than Whole Foods. I can say that. I like Trader Joe's because you can get a good amount of food for like $20. If you go to Whole Foods, you're getting like a half pound of some like exotic cheese or some shit. It's terrible. And my old roommate used to work at Whole Foods, and he was not a happy employee. I can tell you that much. They are pretty terrible there, from what I understand. And they're owned by Amazon now, by the way.
Yeah, and they hate unions because they're owned by Amazon. They hate unions. So like, but what I'm saying is that to you guys, would you agree with me when I say that someone like Sarah Palin or something would call it a crazy leftist radical company. Come on, guys.
Oh yeah, they'll be like they have that.
That's
like,
their marketing plan is to
their marketing plan is to be like, oh, we're like a progressive company, we're like inclusive, da 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 da. But really, they still have the same fucking practices as like a Walmart or whatever.
Yeah, so they'll be like, we're inclusive, we're progressive, but also we hate unions with a passion, and we stomp them out as soon as they begin to spark. And so this was a Mayday's socialist gathering. So speaking of companies that are progressive and leftist, I'm assuming that the food that you mentioned at the end was catered by Papa John's.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Let's talk about the origins of Mayday. So Mayday is International Workers' Day, and it was started by the Second International to commemorate the Haymarket Affair in Chicago. Now, what was the Haymarket Affair, right? Haymarket Affair was there's a bombing that took place at a demonstration in Chicago in Haymarket Square, May 4th, 1886. All right. And who are those people that threw the bombs? Allegedly, it was anarchists, because in Chicago, there was a lot of anarchists at this time. Anarchist was a big contingent of who was organizing for labor at that time in the United States. And there's a big anarchist history in the United States labor movement. And yeah, so it's interesting now that it's interesting that that Mayday was started in the USSR, like officially started in the USSR, I believe, to commemorate International Workers' Day. Because
I think it was chosen in 1889, right?
1889. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. It was in Paris. It was in Paris that they decided to create the holiday in the Second International. So I got that wrong. But it was a holiday in the USSR also. It's a holiday everywhere, basically. Besides the United States.
It was started by Marxists, by the Marxist International.
Yeah.
The Socialist Congress. And it was established as the Second International. But yeah, the American conceptions of the Mayday, the Haymarket, but also at the Haymarket Affair, like while the anarchists did throw the bombs, it wasn't majority anarchist or comprised. It was mostly workers, like proletarians. Well, and then there was also socialists there.
Yeah, I was just saying there was a large contingent of anarchist people in that era. This can lead into another conversation that we've been gearing up towards. Is there's been a little bit of contention between the three of us regarding anarchism and the socialist tradition. So maybe we can get into that if anybody wants to lead off. I think, Greg, you might have some stuff to say.
So if we're going to talk about anarchism at all, I don't really want to talk about like Proudhon or specific theorists. If we talk about the way that anarchism is experienced and lived out by people today, it is not necessarily based in like a book that they read. Like a lot of these people are like definitely not the book reading types. Okay. So we can all agree that there's a difference between achieving a revolution and just acting in a revolutionary manner, right?
I agree.
Yeah. So anarchists today, a lot of the thing that they are doing is they don't really draw that distinction as much. So by acting out revolution in their daily lives, that to them is achieving revolution. And I don't really have I don't really think that's wrong. Okay. Like I think that, so an anarchist solution to something like a homeless problem would be to squat if you got 50 people and you all just set up camp in a fucking abandoned building, right? And you live there and you start like making food and serving it to people and giving people shelter in that building. That is a revolutionary act that you can do as a group. And that is, you could probably debate me there, but I would say that's something that mostly anarchists are doing, things like that.
Yeah, and that's definitely a revolutionary thing to do, because it's taking it's changing property relations, you know what I mean, in like a active sense.
Yeah, and if the cops try and come kick you out, you fight them. And that's all. That's like anarchists do this. They do it. So I don't really know what else to say about that except for the anarchist perspective today, I think, is about trying to live out revolutionary acts against the hierarchy in our society every single day of their lives. So even at the smallest level to not the largest level, but a bigger level where they can seize control of a building and feed people out of it or something like that.
Or just live there, you know?
Or live there.
You know?
Do drugs there, whatever the fuck they want to do. So it's like if you try and take like a Leninist or Trotskyist perspective, what they're really useful for is talking about how you can seize a moment and use that to just grab the seat of power and just steer the ship of history in that way. The anarchists have a different perspective, but I don't think that it's useless.
So you said anarchists like live revolution, right? Like in their own lives.
Yeah, well, I said they act out revolution.
Act out revolution. What successful revolution have anarchists ever led?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, they had some anarchist communes in Spain for a while until they were stamped out, and then the Paris.
Yeah, what happened to them?
The Paris commune, I think, was pretty anarchist.
I don't think anarchists have ever led a successful revolution. And yeah, and for the housing thing, you say squatting, you know,
yeah,
revolutionary.
Dude,
but we have enough vacant housing in the United States. Like we have more vacant housing that sits there because of private property than we do homeless people, houseless
anarchists
people.
Are against private property, dude. That's not
I know. We could seize this vacant property and literally just distribute it on the proletariat, the communists.
Who's actually doing it right now?
But not that's idealist to say that we can do it right now because we can't.
Anarchists are doing it. They do it, dude. They do it all the time.
No, I'm saying to seize all of the housing and distribute it to people that need it, like on an egalitarian, basis. To do that, you'd need to, organize and have revolution and expropriate it.
Yeah, so I don't think you really understood what I was trying to say with my diatribe or whatever I did at the beginning. Is that it's not that. So I said what anarchists are doing is they are living out revolutionary acts and helping people in their own.
But what revolution? How is it?
And that's what I was going to say. You asked me what revolution did they fucking accomplish, and I said, the Paris Commune, and there was also some communes in Spain, and but that's actually not the point. It's like I don't really want to fucking get into this, but you could also say, well, what revolutions did socialists actually achieve? I don't want to make this point, dude, but you're almost forcing me into it.
The USSR, China.
Okay, so Stalin and what the USSR became, and
Lenin, Trotsky, the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, but that failed. So what happened to that? Became Stalin.
There's a degeneration. Yeah, I mean, you can get into that. It's not.
Yeah,
like
I don't want to get into that though, dude. It's like
it's not like cut. It's not like cut and dry, black and white.
It's not cut and dry when it's not cut and dry in this situation, but when it comes to anarchists and they got stamped out by like the entire world deciding we cannot have the people coming together and living in a commune and living like for the mutual benefit of the workers from the bottom up, and it gets stomped out there, then in that case it's black and white. It's just, well, they didn't achieve revolution.
The Paris Commune was an anarchist revolution?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, Marx liked it. Yeah, I'm not against Marx. That's the thing.
There was no socialist governments like during that at all.
Dude, okay, maybe this is the issue that we have. I don't think that you necessarily don't have a government in an anarchist system. Like my thing, and I think a lot of anarchists who think about it, I'm not talking about like the drug addict I'm not gonna try and slur all drug addicts, but like the drug addict on the street who's like, he spray paints an anarchy sign on a building. I'm talking about like someone who's actually like looked into anarchism in any for any amount of time.
Looked into it, what, theory?
Come on, dude. Not a
Let's
little.
talk about
Yeah,
theory. Let's
theory
talk about
in a way.
anarchist theory.
Theory in a
I've
way.
got some notes here if you want to talk about
All
it.
right, fine. Let's talk. No, but okay. So you tell me. Let's not talk about Proudhon.
I just want to make. I just want.
What about Stirner?
I'm going to say one. Hold on. I'm going to say one thing. The anarchism that I think Greg Moore associates is talking about is definitely more the
syndicalist,
syndicalists, and not so much the Stirner or Proudhon, more in the Emma Goldman, the fucking Kropotkin, Bakunin sense of anarchism.
Right. So the main issue that anarchists have with hierarchy isn't that hierarchy exists. The problem that anarchists have with hierarchy or governments, whatever, is that the ones that we have are unjust. Anarchists would rather form a society from the bottom up instead of from the top down. Right? We can all agree with that.
Yeah.
That's actually that's not even just an anarchist thing. That's just a leftist thing, period. I just don't understand what your opposition to anarchy is.
And when I'm talking about anarchists, or anarchism, I critique it how I see it lacking, and I substitute Marxism, which is more of a scientific materialist theory, and I use that line of reasoning to answer the questions that anarchism necessarily can't. For me, at least, when I was younger, I just kind of had this general anti-capitalist, I didn't like the state. Oftentimes I self-identified as an anarchist. I was like, I'm just anti-state. I'm an anarchist, but I didn't know anything about theory or anything. But as I read theory, I became a Marxist.
I mean, I would argue you can be like a libertarian Marxist. You know what I mean? You can be a
anarchist Marxist. So what theory have you read that decided that made you?
And then also, I guess, just through experience too, I was drawn towards.
But you didn't say that. Let's go back to what you just said. What theory though did you read that made you a Marxist?
I mean, State and Revolution was a big one for me, and then I would say probably Trotsky's. I mean, the Revolution Betrayed is good, but for early theory, Transitional Program was relatively eye-opening on kind of minimum program, maximum program, transitional program. So that one's good. But I forgot to mention
actually
experience.
Not familiar with Trotsky's writings, but I can talk maybe a little bit about State and Revolution.
So I think State and Revolution is useful in the context that State and Revolution is useful, if that makes sense. So that's obviously not an anarchist writing, right? It's talking about how you can take control of a society and the steps of a specific kind of revolution, right? Or no? Am I completely off?
I always describe it as it's pretty much, it's the title. It talks about the nature of the state question, and revolution, the appeal, how we need
Okay, let me see if I can attack this from a different angle. Do you think that is extremely useful as far as agitating in current day America for leftist change?
Absolutely, because I still think that a lot of these old, as you say, writings, and it's pretty common to disparage Marx and Lenin.
I wasn't disparaging Marx.
But no, I'm saying that a lot of people today, you get that, right, where people will be like, oh, well, Marx, that was written 100 years ago by some old white guy, and it's just well, at the same time though, it is still it's still to this day the highest level of thought on these subjects. No one has gone above it in 100 years, because that's the epitome of what capitalism could bring, essentially. The height of capitalist thought is Marxist thought. Like
Okay,
for a
so
lot of these different things. Like so Lenin wrote State and Revolution talking about the nature of the state, which at the time he was saying, the nature of the state is, the a committee to like for the bourgeoisie's affairs, and the various arms of the state are there to protect itself, and essentially that in a short way of describing it is like the state and the nature of it. It's there to protect the bourgeoisie, and then he talks about revolution and why we need revolution to defeat that state.
all right, so yeah, we do need revolution to defeat the state. I don't think you'd find an anarchist on the world who would say no, we don't need revolution to defeat the state. A few things I just want to talk about. The thing that happened where Lenin led the revolution against the Tsars in Russia had a very, very historical, like, there's no situation like that in the United States right now, is what I'm trying to say. We don't have a prolonged like meat grinder war. We have a prolonged war, but it's not like a meat grinder like World War I, right? The masses of people are against the war in a way, but they aren't so against the war they're whipped up into a revolutionary fervor, which was happening in Russia at that time. Like, so I just don't see how it's actually that relevant to revolution in America, because revolution in America, to me, it looks like we do these small acts where we show the contradictions of capitalism, and we just work within our sphere and try and increase really we need to increase the people's like class consciousness, and we could live a different life than what we're living now, because that is like the main focus of revolution to me in America right now. Would you disagree with that? When Lenin fucking came back to Russia after his exile, he looked around and he saw a society that was ripe for revolution. That's not the case in America today. But we can do revolutionary acts in America to increase the revolutionary fervor in America. It's not like a hopeless case. These acts are usually the type of things that anarchists engage in, which is like squatting, taking over areas.
Potential in the United States working class?
No,
That's
I
a
don't
question.
think that there's no revolutionary potential in the United States working class. I think there's revolutionary potential in the United States working class. I think that we don't have
I think what
as much revolutionary potential as Russia in like 19, what was it, like 10 or whatever, whenever this
Well,
happened.
1905 they had a revolution, and Lenin was a part of it. And then, I mean, you said
do you
Lenin
understand what I'm saying though? That these are fucking a completely different fucking.
what Greg is trying to say is that we're in completely different historical and material conditions right now than where the conditions that Lenin was engaging in.
And Trotsky. If we took a Trotsky and Leninist approach and we were just like, we're just gonna run up and like seize the power plants or something, dude, we would just be squashed. That's just not gonna work here right now.
Yeah, but that's also what people are saying like early on in Russia too, though, and before the 1905 revolution, and finally the successful revolution in 1917. There's a famous Rosa Luxemburg quote where it's like, before the revolution it seems impossible, and then after the revolution it seemed inevitable.
Inevitable, yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, I feel like there is a huge, massive revolutionary potential in the United States. So I'm kind of opposed to that. I'd say you could look at, the George Floyd protests. How 10% of Americans were out in the streets for that. That's 30 million people, are out for that. And as the material conditions do change, I'm not looking at like it mechanically, like now in the moment either, like with formal logic being like, this is how it is, this is how it will be. That's not Marxism. Like I'm kind of, I'm trying to look at the long view and where it could go, how to get there, scientifically hammer it out.
All right, so scientifically, in your opinion, do you think that what anarchists are doing is not beneficial to the leftist movement?
I would say no.
Okay, so what about squatting in abandoned buildings and doing your thing, or like doing?
it invites reaction. Because right, like you're squatting in a building, you have all these papers, right, of all the names of your
So
comrades.
what about marching through the fucking streets and every single night until you get justice doesn't invite reaction? Because as far as I can tell, when people were marching through the streets in these cities like Minneapolis, what was happening was you hear a lot about the violence of the protesters where they were like a single building got burned. They said it was the entire fucking city, but it was like a building or two. But really what started that was they were just marching through the streets protesting. Maybe they stayed out a little bit late, and then the cops showed up and just started shooting them with rubber bullets. I think that it also, like, so any what I'm trying to say is that, so anything that invites reaction is just not useful to you? Or
I mean, it's not just anarchists that were out there.
no, I'm not
protesting
saying
anymore.
no, but you were saying that what anarchists do invites reaction, so it's bad. But like just marching through like that invites reaction, dude. Right?
It's dialectical. There's certain things that are kind of adventurism, I would say. Like, if you're going out there just to go out there and bash skulls, get your skull bashed, yeah, that's kind of adventurous, but. And I would say that the squatting thing for me wouldn't is invites reactions. The cops could show up, sees your computer or whatever, sees your blah blah blah. To me, it's just, that's not worth it. I'm trying to look at it like more, I guess.
Yeah, no, it might not be worth it for you, but I'm saying, is it worthless? Like for you, I'm not telling you to go live anarchism, right? I'm just saying, like, is this a worthless fucking thing to be doing?
Maybe not entirely worthless, but definitely not as effective as Marxism.
Dude, I kind of fucking hate saying this shit, but like, okay, so what are Marxists doing that's effective?
Organizing the leadership, organizing the vanguard party that can be the subjective factor in these natural uprisings that are happening. These uprisings are naturally occurring. They so the subjective factor that can bring them to victory is the leadership that has that long, you know what I mean, long sight on on future, on history, and on theory that can say, no, this is what we need to do, and execute it, and have the democratic centralism and people adhering from the top down, doing what you need to do. The discipline, the organization, that, and with that leadership, you can push these naturally occurring uprisings to a total victory for the working class.
I guess
socialist revolution.
I guess, yeah, no. The question is not whether or not we need socialist revolution and end to capitalism. Like, we agree on that entirely. What really confuses me about what you just said was that you're like, well, socialists or Marxists are out there.
Well, so if you agree,
I don't really agree with the distinction between Marxists and anarchists. There's no distinction there. There are Marxist anarchists. Most of them are, like, unless we're talking about ANCAPs, who I don't believe are true anarchists, then yeah, almost every anarchist is a Marxist. Okay.
Yeah.
But
not every Marxist is an anarchist.
I'd say.
Yeah. But what would you say?
I would argue that there is a distinction. Just me. And you said we're not disputing that we need socialist revolution and to bring socialism. So, but it's not anarchist revolution bringing anarchy. So
Yeah,
this is kind of like a little bit of a semantic thing, because I don't distinguish between
socialism.
Anarchism is socialist to me. Like,
and even in State and Revolution, Lenin gives several nods to the anarchists. That's in there a few times. There's a whole section, 2 sections on anarchists, and him responding to the anarchist questions. Yeah, controversy with the anarchists, and I think the third part, and then there's Plekhanov, something about Plekhanov talking to the anarchists. So yeah, I mean, he mentions in there too. There's a bunch of quotes. I think that there's a quote right here. Yeah. We do not at all disagree with the anarchists on the question of the abolition of the state as an and. But that's just the quote. He goes on to talk the differences and so on. Another quote: while the state exists, there can be no freedom. When there is freedom, there will be no state. That's Lenin in State and Revolution. And you're going to say, well, that's anarchist. No, that's Lenin. That's a Marxist.
earlier on, I kind of got stopped in the middle of it, but I was saying like, well, what the Marxists are doing is that they're organizing these type of events that are going to happen anyway. But that's also anarchists are too. Like a lot of this is driven by people who would call themselves anarchists. The next point, you keep trying to, you're like, that's not anarchist, that's Marxist. I don't see the distinction between anarchists and Marxists. Like the people who call themselves anarchists are Marxists.
Some of them.
No, I spoke to a lot of anarchists today who, they were explicitly telling me that they were not Marxists.
And what was their problem with Marx?
I mean, they usually anarchists that I meet and talk to in person give like the same, things that the CIA says about Marxists.
Okay, but I don't know what the CIA says. So what did they say that is their problem with Marx?
I mean, they anarchists will bring up like the Black Book, be like, oh well, communism killed 100 billion people, Ukraine, like they starved us to blah blah blah, Kronstadt, and they'll blow stuff like that out of proportion. Be like, I don't agree with communism. Like I'm a anarchist. I'm not Marxist at all. Or people with like the three lines down: anti-capitalism, anti-fascism, anti-communism. Those kind of people, like those people.
He's referring to Three Arrows. You know the Three Arrows.
I know. I am trying to think though. Those guys were
Three Arrows,
anti-cap. Those guys were actually like pro-liberal. Those guys were
Three
liberal.
Arrows. We don't need Three Arrows anymore.
Those guys were. I think those guys were not an anarchist movement, but they were explicitly like liberal movement. It was like monarchy, anti-communism, and anti-capitalism, right?
Yeah, two arrows or get rid of the symbol. Fuck Three Arrows. All my homies hate Three Arrows.
Yeah, that's
cool. But
I'm not here to defend.
Three Arrows was like historically was a social democratic thing. That's not a anarchist thing. That's a traditionally
like a liberal kind of.
No, it's like
historically, I'm just saying a lot of times you'll see the Three Arrow sweatshirt or you'll see the Three Arrow sticker. And
dude, the reason that a lot of these people are doing this is just because it's anti.
It's an Antifa thing, yeah.
Well, it's anti-fascist, and also these people. I don't know. Do they consider themselves anarchists? I would be interested.
What Antifa? No,
the Three Arrows people.
Not all of them, because it's like a
just because part of it is anti-communism, and like when I talk to anarchists, which isn't a lot, I don't really get out much, but not many of them are like well, see, the thing about the Black Book of Communism is I could see why some people would make that argument, and which I think is bullshit, because there's also a Black Book of Capitalism, right? Which no one ever talks about, and no one actually bothered to compile, right? Tons and tons and tons of people have died because of capitalism. Like straight up because of capitalism.
Of course. Their
names are lost to history because no one is bothering to fucking record it, okay?
Even Noam Chomsky, as milquetoast as a lot of leftists think he is nowadays, even he criticized the Black Book of Communism. So, and he's like people will say he's
a syndicalist.
He's a syndicalist, or he's not even that far left nowadays.
Dude,
even
people are so dumb, dude. I don't know why.
Even he disputed the Black Book of Communism. So I'd say like a lot of the people you meet on the streets that call themselves anarchists aren't the type of I don't know if they're I don't know. They're not social anarchists. Maybe they're just don't like the government. They don't like the status quo. They have no political education. So I guess in that sense, you could. Jared has a good point that a lot of anarchists are just vaguely like anti-authoritarian, which doesn't really mean anything.
Then well, that's fucking bullshit. That's whatever. Yeah, but really, let's think about that for a second too. Is anyone here pro-authoritarian?
I don't think the word
who are we being authoritarian towards? Is it the working class being authoritarian towards the oppressors, the capitalists?
That's not the fucking case I'm talking about.
Well, that's obviously the case that can happen.
No, because I'm for fucking stripping. That's not the type of authoritarianism that people are talking about.
Yeah, that's
talking about. That would be a bottom up approach, dude. Because the people who own private property, right, and the means of production, are a small minority. So if everyone else wants to strip them of their fucking dumb shit that they wants to strip them of what they rightfully earned, according to them, that's a bottom up approach. So that wouldn't be like authoritarian to be. Like authoritarian hierarchies are where
but
It would
that
be
is
authoritarian to them.
that. Yeah, exactly. That's why I
it
don't.
wouldn't be authoritarian though.
Greg,
It'd be democratic.
Let me jump in here. Is that the whole thing about the idea of being anti-authoritarian is a misnomer. There is no, if you're going to have political power of any kind, democratic or otherwise, there is going to be an element of authority. You have to. The whole point of
Yeah,
that,
that's why there's definitely going
yeah,
to
but
be
so
an
my
authority.
point is that why even engage with the word anti-authoritarian when it's such a loaded term that clearly has
I didn't
other.
bring it up, but
No, I know,
I
I
didn't
know,
bring it up, but
I
because
know,
it pisses me off. It's like,
I know.
yeah, it would be. So it's like if the authority of the masses of the people decide that a few people, like 3 of them or whatever, we'll just say like if there's 200 people and 3 people are just stealing everything from them, right? And then those 300 people are like, how about we stop getting raped by these people on top? And they reorganize society where suddenly those people aren't just stealing everything from the masses and now they're brought down. Like that's not authoritarian. That's just like, well, I guess it's authoritarian.
It is
If you want
authoritarian.
to fucking like throw the term around in some useless fashion like that, but that's not authoritarian. That's just like making society better for the most people. You wouldn't, if they just were gonna be like, okay, we should stop doing this and come down at the same level as the rest of us, you wouldn't even really need to. The only reason you need to use the power of authority against them is because they're using it against you first. This is like self-defense.
I would agree.
This isn't.
I would agree that you don't have to kill them. I would 100% agree.
No, I'm going to say you might have to. You probably will, because these
You
people
might,
aren't just going to
but I
fucking
would
give
say,
this up.
I mean, you never know that if, like you said, we'll if the day comes where we're pressing the thumb on them and asserting, the authority and using the state against them and so on, they might feel backed into a corner and lash out, but they might also just go quietly. And that's
here's the point I was trying to make is that I wouldn't consider that authoritarian. You'd be like, to them it's authoritarian, which I think is laughable. I've heard people say shit like that. That's like something you'll hear from like a Ben Shapiro. He'd be like, what's authoritarian to me? It's authoritarian to me if you're going to steal my property. But it's like, no, because what they're already doing is authoritarian to us. That's just self fucking defense, dude. So I don't.
Yeah, but I nobody's disagreeing with that point.
Yeah, I know no one is. That's why this whole fucking conversation is stupid, and I don't know why I said we should have it, dude. It's like, all right, fine. I won't use the word anarchist. I won't use the word anarchist.
It's good to disagree.
I don't actually, dude. I can't even think of a single way in which we disagree, except for that you really don't like the term.
I think we disagree. We disagree. You said earlier that you don't think there's a distinction between anarchists and Marxists or socialists.
Yeah, because Marxists are anarchists. Well, dude, really? Because you actually agree with me that Marxists are anarchists.
I think I mentioned in the other podcast, like
that wasn't a real podcast, dude. We didn't ever air it.
Oh, that other thing we did that I mentioned, like right off the bat, I was like, there's things that we agree on, there's things we disagree on.
No, but what do we disagree on?
Well, let's start with what we do agree on.
No, but just like I think that the things we disagree on are probably like 2. The things we agree on we could talk about for days, dude.
Yeah, I just want to throw out what we agree on quickly. We both want a world without states, without religion, without money. But the differences are outlook and practice. In a word, obviously you can get way into it. The different questions that we differ on, or historical anarchism and historical Marxism. And I know there's a bunch of different types of anarchism, but like historically, like the anarchists at the period of time that they were debating with Marxists and so on.
Well, they're still debating with Marxists. I mean, look at right now. Okay, here's the thing, though, is that I guess what I really want to get at is that, so you think that my conception of an anarchist type of revolution, which can be accompanied by a more organized, what you would call Marxist type of revolution. But just, do you actually think that, which you said you did, you think that squatting in a building, taking it over, and let's also add on using it to house and feed people, and let's create a like women's shelter or something, like a community-led women's shelter.
And let's say that orphans live in the attic too. Orphans also live in the attic.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I'm just tacking on circumstances.
The reason they're living in the attic is because they're hiding from the Nazis in the streets. Oh, so when did the anarchists like create a society where they just stamp their thumb down on an oppressed group and just fucking like murdered the shit out of them? Like,
I don't think they ever had the chance, but
well, they had a little bit of a chance, right? It doesn't take long for you to round up a group of people and shoot them in the back of the head.
So they would.
If you're
saying they might.
No, if you're in control for a week, you can do that. If you're like, and the anarchists, there was anarchist communes in Spain,
Yes.
right?
Not only communes, there was actually there was a anarchist federation
Government
in Spain.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Spain,
Yeah.
Right. So like the first thing that they did was not to round up all the Jews and execute them, right?
No.
I don't know. They had a chance there, right? I mean, it would have been really easy to do.
They were fighting pretty much the whole time. So the slim chance that
They weren't
had
fighting the whole time, dude. They were walking around in like military fatigues. They weren't constantly fighting.
What do you mean?
No, you know what I mean. Like since the inception of the anarchist faction in Spain was born in essentially blood. Like, or at least in the
blood of fascists and the blood of fascists and the blood of workers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but during the Civil War, yeah, like, anarchist Spain was just like, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was definitely not a desirable situation, but I would say any revolution.
Dude, I just want to say, I said the blood of fascists and the blood of workers is what created it. And what was the October Revolution born in, or whatever?
I mean, similar things.
The blood of fascists and the blood of workers. So I don't
except no, not it was replaced fascist with czarist, or
czarist and fascist also.
But also like I said earlier, the revolution itself wasn't entirely bloody. It was the Civil War that was.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but
instigated by czarists.
Yeah, but would the revolution have happened if there wasn't a civil war in the backdrop?
No, would yeah, or whatever he said.
Well, the Civil War happened after the revolution.
That's what I was gonna say. Would the Civil War have happened without the revolution? If everyone was just like, if everyone went back home and if everyone went back home and they were like, thank Jesus, or thank the Orthodox Jesus Christ for the Tsar. God bless him. And we all went to his fucking palace and just prayed and kissed his feet or whatever. Would there have been a civil war in that situation?
No.
I mean, there would be some sort of like violent stuff, because if you look at history, like the Tsar was completely out of pocket, and like the people were fucked up. Like,
yeah, the people were ripe for revolution. And that's why when you talk about what happened with Lenin and Trotsky, it's not applicable to most societies.
But how are we not ripe for revolution? Like,
I'll say one thing. We are ripe for revolution.
I don't know what it's like in Massachusetts, you guys, but here, if you start talking this shit out on the dude, if I took this headset up onto the street and I just started yelling this outside, someone in a fucking truck would show up with 6 of his redneck buddies and beat the shit out of me for being a stupid fucking commie. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like where I live, where I'm just like completely, I don't know. If we're ripe for revolution, it doesn't seem like it to me in any fucking way, dude. Like,
I can see that. that.
I would say we are ripe for revolution because of a lot of different things. One, the wealth disparity is the biggest it's ever been in the history of, I'd say, mankind itself.
I totally agree with all that shit. But here's the thing about being ripe for revolution. I want you, dude. I know it's really impossible under this capitalist system for you to get a couple weeks off, but if you ever could, I would love for you to come to Michigan. Me and you will go up in front of Walmart. We'll just burn a few American flags and we'll see what happens.
How about we
Like-
set up a table? How about we set up an IMT table?
Yeah, I would do
They
that
would
too.
kick us
I would
out.
do
They
that
would
too.
kick us
No,
out.
actually, you know what? I was being hyperbolic there. We'll burn American flags just because I know. But even if you set up a IMT table and you had like a picture of Marx there, dude, the reactions you would get in this area are like they would blow your fucking mind.
I mean, there's reactions today that I got at Mayday that weren't incredible, but I kept on
I'm
asking.
not saying we
people.
should stop, dude.
I kept on asking people if they're interested in
I'm just saying we're not
Greg.
right
I never
for
stopped.
revolution. I'm
People-
not saying we should stop, dude. I'm just saying like
People
right
could have given me the dirtiest look in the world, and I would be like, "All right, I'll still be here next year." As they're walking away with a big smile on my face, and I would do it in Michigan too.
I'm not
I would do it in
I'm not a
Michigan, too.
coward either. What I'm saying to you is that you would do that here, but like you wouldn't like even the fucking very poor working class people here, they don't have any conception of
Greg, I want you to know today at Mayday, I would single-hand like when we were just cold selling to people like walking through Boston Commons, I would specifically pick out the people that looked richest and say, "Are you interested in overthrowing capitalism?" With a big smile on my face.
yeah, I'm not a coward either, dude. I'll do that shit. I will do that shit too. The point is not I'm saying you'd be too scared. The point is that like I think that you would be shocked by the reaction you get from even the poorest people here in Michigan.
I would be totally willing to patiently explain and discuss to them everything.
And they just and I would be too. But the thing is that they don't fucking care and don't want to listen. This doesn't actually have anything to do with anarchism. Just like are we ripe for revolution? We're ripe for something. Maybe not the revolution that you're hoping for and I'm hoping for. Yeah, we might be ripe for revolution. If you come, yeah, it depends on where you are in America, I guess. We're ripe for a civil war, maybe.
I don't think what do you
They
mean
want
by
us to have a civil war.
hold on.
They
What,
want us divided.
what does it mean when you say we're ripe for revolution? Is it that we should have a revolution or that we're
I'm
living
saying
in a
the conditions are there. The conditions are there, but the
Are
work.
Yeah, so you're saying the conditions are ready, are there for a revolutionary moment to emerge, but you're saying that the people need education.
Maybe the level's not there, and then the size of our organizations and stuff like that. Like
Dude,
we need the objective. We need the subjective or the objective factor.
in a
Okay.
in a conversation
Okay.
that we were in a way, I agree with you. We are ripe for revolution, and here's the thing that in a conversation we were having earlier, I was telling you about one of the multiple times I was in a gas station where I live, and people were screaming about fake elections and civil war and gas prices. Right? These people aren't primed to they're not primed to lead a socialist revolution or
Yeah.
join a socialist revolution.
Let me
If you try and talk to them and fucking explain to them why they should be for that, they don't want to hear it, dude. So I don't know. Yeah.
probably the people shouting in a gas station aren't the ones who you even need to I don't think that should be your metric for the general
It's not,
population.
no, it's not. My metric for the general population is the people that I talk to
Right,
where I
but
work, and
I understand. So, but I'm saying you keep going back to that example
because it's so extreme. Like really. Like,
yeah, exactly. But both of you can agree that things are pretty bad. Revolution could happen, right? You both agree on that, right?
I actually think that we agree that revolution will happen.
Right.
And
Okay.
it's it's not that far off, like 10,
Okay.
15 years, something like that.
Okay. So Jared says we need to educate the masses, educate the advanced working class. You say, as from the anarchist perspective, that we need to engage in whatever revolutionary acts we can right now to up in a attempt to up class consciousness to show that there's another way of being. Right? You'd say that.
Yeah,
Greg?
I would say, yeah, we should show people the deficits of capitalism through our actions,
Right. So I don't
including things like squatting. and all that shit.
squatting, expropriation, what have you, right? So I'd say I don't think there's actually as much of a disparity between what the two of you are saying. It's just one of you is saying we should teach via actions, and one of you is saying we should teach via traditional education. And I think both of you are right. And I think
Well, that's a very mechanical way of putting it. Formal, like, because to me, it's not like it's in the yes, you do you want to kind of in a sense when you're dealing with like we've just agreed on people that need the theoretical education to get to a level that would seem like okay, now we can kind of start a revolution. Yeah, you need to start with theory and build up, but then you can go directly to action. Who's to say that like the squatting thing, it can be revolutionary and under certain
Oh, it
circumstances.
definitely is revolutionary. I just want to throw that out.
I want to give an example of where I consider it to be quite revolutionary. Like imagine, so we raise the level of the working class where the material conditions change, and we say, okay, now we want to do a mass squatting campaign where all of the vacant housing, like we literally just people who need housing, like students or whatever, like boom, go and just take the housing and like on a massive scale, like like storm area 51. They can't stop us all. We're gonna storm the housing. They can't stop us all. Like under those certain circumstances, it absolutely could be revolutionary. But then under the same, we would need a plan and we need to pull it off good. If if the state forces of reaction come to repress the shit out of us, there needs to be a plan to stop them. Like,
so I think like the main thing that you guys are disagreeing on is not the actual praxis, but the actual organization behind the praxis, so the timing, and whether or not it's going to be successful.
I think actually at this point we're like disagreeing from like an emotional fucking. I don't know.
Yeah. I that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to illustrate. That's what I'm trying to illustrate without actually saying that.
Like, so you would say that if me and 5 friends just decided to steal a house and squat in it, and the way that we fought the police when they showed up to come get us away is we like chained ourselves to the pipes or something. That would just not be revolutionary because
I think
it wasn't
I'm gonna answer.
No.
I'm gonna answer for him.
Jared just said that it would only be revolutionary if we massively did it. I just want to know that wouldn't be revolutionary act by us because it just wasn't enough.
It wouldn't be revolutionary because it's not going to actually enact. It's not going to change the material conditions of society. So in that way, it's not revolutionary. It's not actually a challenge to capitalism in a meaningful way because
we're literally stealing the problem.
What is it going to do when you chain yourself there and the cops show up and all right, now we're going to hit you with a few more charges. You're going to get fined and be in jail longer. We're going to get rid of cut the chains. We're going to put our chains on you. We're going to take you to the big cage. That's going to be fun.
This is an interesting conversation to get into. So it would be like,
this is the best revolution I've ever been in.
So what are you gonna do when you sit down at the fucking stools for white people and the cops? What, they're gonna beat the shit out of you and let the dogs loose and throw you in the jails? What are you gonna change? This sounds.
I tell them I'm an anarchist. They might.
What?
If I'm like, oh, I'm an anarchist, they might give a
no.
Give a good,
you don't understand what I'm drawing the parallel to.
That was a joke.
What are you gonna change, you stupid idiots who want to sit at the white only table?
Like, I don't know. You don't understand it. He's talking about the civil rights movement where they would do things like that. They would do sit-ins, and they would.
It's like, what did they get? They got a few more years in jail, and it's like, yeah, but they also ended segregation, right?
Yeah, because but I think
that applies a bit of pressure. Sure, concessions might be wrenched over, but eventually those concessions are going to be wrenched right back to the hands of the capitalists.
I don't get
what's.
I'm going to say I agree with Greg on a point, but I also disagree with you, Greg, because like in that sense, like when we're talking about the sit-ins in the civil rights movement, the sit-ins were organized. It wasn't just like one random guy would do that. Like the sit-ins were organized. The bus boycotts were extremely organized.
So what if we organized one at a time, just sitting in houses?
That's what I said.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the same. That's the same thing that he said is you have to be organized. Like if there was an organized squatting, if people were just like, okay, we're going to organize. We're all going to squat this whole neighborhood, this whole block of empty buildings, because there are empty buildings all over this. There's blocks of empty fucking buildings in America, right? If you organize a group of people,
Jared didn't actually just say that, because like that would be my point. No, because what Jared said was that what we first need to do is slap them over the head with a couple books of theory and fucking educate these morons, and then if the time is right, then we'll organize a mass squatting campaign, which I think is actually a
good idea.
No, well, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do it today. Fuck teaching these people theory, dude. Let's teach them
Can't do it today. That's
the-
that's not materialist.
the world. The
Bonk.
world fucking
I'm gonna
taught them
bonk
the
you over
theory.
the head with a book of theory.
The world taught them the theory that they have nothing and some people have everything. We don't need to teach them shit, dude. We just need to teach them how to fucking take what they deserve.
But I'm saying maybe we don't need theory as much as some people might think. We definitely need organization more than other people might think. I'm not saying any names. I'm saying we just. I don't
yeah,
think
I'm not
there's-
talking about dude,
I don't think there's as
anar-
much. I don't think there's as much of a dichotomy between what you two guys are saying. Is my point.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. But I just don't think. I don't think anarchy necessarily means a lack of organization.
It's what I said at the very beginning of that first thing. We both envision a world without states, without religion, without money, but we're different on outlook and practice. That's literally all we've been talking about this whole time. Differences in outlook and practice.
So
yeah,
really,
probably. I don't know. I'm just an idiot, but well,
No.
yeah.
I'll hit you with a book of theory or two. And
Dude, if you could hit me like so hard you snap my neck, you'd be a huge help to me. Like as far as living in this
Vibes.
fucking world that we're living in right now, I'm fucking done with it. But
I feel that.
bonk.